The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guest, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn. Today's guest is Amelia Rizzuto, and she's here to share with us her journey of how she came to coming up with her company, All Things Elderberry. Let's hear her journey. Welcome, Amelia.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so you started to share with me a little bit about your journey, and I'm really excited to dive into this because it sounds a lot like my own journey where it was just one thing after another health-wise. So go ahead and start with what was happening with you when you were younger.
So when I was a teenager, around 15 years old, I got like mono, which a lot of kids do. Mine was actually diagnosed as Epstein-Barr virus.
Okay.
And that must have been a trigger for me. I just wasn't able to get well. I started having GI issues. It just kept going and going into other things. And finally, after months of testing, my parents took me like every doctor, did all the tests, all the scopes, all the things. They finally diagnosed me with Crohn's disease.
Okay.
And I'm 46 now, so that was a long time ago. And back then, there was no internet. I couldn't just go to the internet and start.
We're so old. I know, it's crazy.
To think that you can't just go to the internet and just read everything about it and figure out what you're going to do. You just did what the doctor told you to do. You know,
Yeah.
I was told, okay, you have Crohn's, like here, and they weren't even biologic treatments back then.
Yeah.
It's just steroids. There was a couple of drugs that were sort of immunosuppressant, but they weren't biologics. And they put me on like a cocktail of medications. Nobody really said anything about diet or lifestyle, or it just wasn't part of the conversation.
Yeah, I remember for me, they did say stuff about diet, which was, it doesn't matter. That's what they all said, all of them, except it seemed to be unilaterally agreed that popcorn was bad. Like the little
Yes.
kernels, we'll
Mhm.
get into the little crevices, and it makes a lot of sense. And then one doctor was like, maybe lettuce. Lettuce might not be the best. Yeah, that was the only thing, popcorn and lettuce. Other than that, it was like, nope, you eat whatever you want. They said, don't start smoking because that would be bad.
Right.
Like I wasn't a smoker.
Mhm.
But they said for ulcerative colitis, smoking actually would make it worse. But they said if you were a smoker, this was, do not quote me on this, anybody. Like I encourage to quit. But they said if you were a smoker and you got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, that they would actually encourage you to not quit because it makes things worse. Which, like whatever. That's a whole nother thing to get into, right?
Yeah, interesting. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, but like, why even tell a 15-year-old that, right? I was a little bit older though. I think I was about 20. How old was I? I've had so many different health problems. I'm like, how old was I at that point? I think I was like 23-ish when I got ulcerative colitis. And like I can't even imagine. It's it's a lot going through any like intestinal disease as like for you as a child, and then even like early 20s, like you're trying to live your life. And meanwhile, you have something most people can't understand, and it's kind of an embarrassing disease.
Totally.
I feel for
And
you.
it's debilitating. It's like, when you have flare-ups, you can't do anything, you can't go anywhere,
Yeah.
you're exhausted, you want to go have fun. And I actually did start smoking.
Okay.
It took me like at least a decade to figure out how to get back onto a bed. Almost a little more than a decade to get onto this path.
So did it make it worse?
Everything just was bad. I don't know.
I don't know. I was bad.
It was bad. It was just the whole thing was I was in a very self-destructive path to start with. Like,
Okay.
I didn't change lifestyle. I almost made it where I kind of rebelled.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to like have that wake up call. I had mono too at I think it was 8th grade when I got it, and it was really bad. I remember one of my teachers was like, "I've never seen it go on this long." I'm like, "I don't know." Like it was just like I would sneeze and I was just so snotty every single day, but I had already missed so much school. It's like I had to go back, but it just went on and on and on. But yeah, thank God for the advancements that we've had in medical stuff today because yeah, I could have gotten better a lot faster had it been 2025.
Yeah, even just the research that's available now. Like, I know, like for me, like you said, like, we missed so many school days and it was so hard to catch up that I ended up actually taking my senior year of high school. We had a program where I can go to a community college.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing that, just made my life easier that way.
Yeah.
It's great.
I skipped a couple years actually. I left early also. Anyway,
We're just surviving.
yeah, just have to get through.
Just get through it. And that's just kind of how it went for quite a while, where I was just, different cocktails of medications and just continued partying and doing my thing and, bouncing around, and moved into Manhattan and went to the Fashion Institute of Technology. So I went to fashion school in the city, lived in the city for a few years. And,
Hold on. I feel like I'm talking to my twin. I'm like, this is so funny because you and we've been in the same circle for a long time, but never really like actually fully connected. Here's
yeah.
something funny. But when I was 17, I graduated high school early and I went to the Academy of Art for fashion design in San Francisco. But anyways, carry on.
It's on the opposite coast. Yeah. That's awesome. And, met a guy, was dating, who was my husband now, and he got a job offer to go to St. Louis. He does radio. So we decided we're going to go to St. Louis. And, I got a job here. I was working, traveling. I was producing photo shoots. So was on the road all the time, like for weeks at a time. Also, again, not taking care of myself, just not eating, catering, we were eating ever on the go. And then we got married and decided to have kids. And at the age of 30, I was pregnant and back in the hospital again while pregnant with another flare up. And that's kind of was the catalyst for me saying, okay, like this is not going to work because now I've got a baby. And they didn't really have that much information. Like I was on Remicade at the time, which is an immunosuppressant biologic. I was taking a lot of it. I was on like the highest dose for my height and weight. And every 4 weeks I was going. So I was sitting in a cancer infusion center every 4 weeks, the entire day. You would sit there and get the infusion. It would take forever. And so they were like, okay, well, we'll just give you one extra infusion, like on top of and then let's do a round of steroids and try to get this flare under control. And so then I had a lot of questions. I was like, well, what's going to happen to the baby? Does it go through the placenta? Does it, you start panicking because I'm like, oh gosh, you're already worried when you're pregnant. And then I'm like, you're going to mess up the baby or baby's going to come out sick. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. So that was the catalyst for me. So at that point, it was like, okay, well, I have to learn and change what I'm doing. Yeah. And so I went to school for holistic nutrition through Bowman College on the West Coast. They have like cooking schools. It's a great program. And so I did that program and I just started cleaning up my act, free, dairy free, trying bone broth diets and trying all the different diets. Mm-hmm. And also learning about other things, like learning about more spiritual healings and just going down all the rabbit holes, a little bit of tapping, just kind of figure out. And you just start peeling the layers. Mm-hmm. Like you just little by little, you just start peeling the layers and you go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. I remember one time I was like, all right, I'm just going to eat bone broth for like 6 months straight and I'm going to get off all my meds, thinking like I had the perfect solution. And I did. I like stopped taking my meds and
my doctor's like, Andrea, you can't just survive on blueberries, okay? I'm like, okay, well, actually, I'm not trying to survive on just blueberries. But he was being sarcastic because he said he had a patient that I think he did have cancer. Yes. So he had already gotten diagnosed and wanted to cure it with vitamin C and vitamin C only. And so he went that route and then he didn't make it. And he's like, I don't want that to be you. He was like, you can't just do a blueberry, which I've never said I was on blueberries. I like blueberries, but I don't even eat them daily. So it was just like his example of an extreme where people might just consume one thing or think that one thing will cure it. But yeah, I'm also not taking my meds right now. I'm still trying. I did the Gundry diet and it really does. It worked like immediately really well. And then I kind of strayed off of it a few times and I'm
Mhm.
just, it's a lot to keep up with. It's hard with travel to also stay on the diet and different things. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do at this moment, but yeah, no, diet is huge. It definitely plays into. I'm curious though, like what you think has been your biggest player here in the game for getting well because for me, I don't know. It's definitely cumulative, but I
Mhm.
think that spiritual piece, like you were saying, that energetic piece, that healing, that understanding of all these old harbored emotions that we have, how much locking that up can actually make us so ill, and how much we can transform our lives by rewiring our thoughts. So I'm curious what your biggest thing is for getting well.
That is the biggest thing in my
Mhm.
opinion. I think you literally have to become a different person.
Yeah.
I think my entire mindset changed, everything I believe changed, the way I start my day changed, just let go of so many things. But you don't, it's not just like, oh, I let go of it, like I went to
Yeah.
different kinds of ceremonies.
Mhm.
I in St. Louis, we have a great group of holistic healers. So I did lots and lots of acupuncture. I've gone to sound bowls. I've done like really intense breathing
Mhm.
sessions. Like I don't know if you've done the one, like, I'm not sure what it's called, where like your whole body just,
Is it the somatic breathing?
somatic
Yeah.
treatment. Yeah.
Mhm.
And all of those little by little start to let go of things. And then you just kind of learn to do cord cuttings and it takes time, right? Like you write messages, you burn them. There's so many things
Yeah.
you can do. You cleanse your space. It's little bits constantly,
Mhm.
learning to do Kundalini yoga, which is so great for your body to just move that energy. If we're just sitting around doing nothing all day, complaining, eating, that energy is so stuck. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's just it has to be constant. Like
Yeah.
I wish I can say I did this one thing and it was like my whole life changed, but I just learned techniques that I use constantly. Like I'm in the sauna, like sweating it out.
Yeah.
I'm doing, trying to go to yoga class, walking with my friends outside, trying to get sunlight. It's become just part of my life where every single day I'm intentionally doing things to move energy through my body. And I also am really careful with my words. I don't say I have Crohn's. I'm not on medication right now. So I just say I was diagnosed when I was a kid,
Mhm.
but I don't ever own the illness. It's not
Yeah. I
you know,
recently told my husband, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna tell myself every morning when I wake up, I don't have ulcerative colitis anymore. I don't have it." He's like, "Okay." But I mean, like, he knows sometimes certain things, they just work, but one of my favorite sayings is how I mean, I don't know if it's a saying per se, but how people say, "Your thoughts can make you sick, but they can also make you well."
1,000%.
And I think
Every
that
time. Yeah.
yeah, I think you gotta really sit with that and think about that, how you really can make yourself ill with the thought processes that you have. So then
Yeah.
you can also do the opposite and make yourself well.
If you take the time every day to just be, like, present with that and aware of it. So I did, like, a little experiment where I just was gonna watch my thoughts.
Mhm.
And every time I had one that was not a good thought, like, "Oh, this is gonna be a mess," or, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna happen," or just dumb thoughts, or like, why am I thinking about this? So stupid." We always think about negative things
Yeah.
or, like, scary things, something bad's gonna happen. So every time you start to think that, like, "Oh, no, 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 wait, I'm not gonna think this. What am I doing?" And you talk to there's, like, another voice. Have you read the book, The Power of Now?
Yes, I have, but I haven't read it.
Okay, so there's this, like, Eckhart Tolle talks about, like, how there's, like, our subconscious, like, our kinda head chatter is not really us. Like,
Yeah.
the quiet, like, there's another voice back there that is us.
Mhm.
So you almost, like, have this, like,
Wow.
conversation where you're like, "Hey, knock it off. Stop thinking these things. Think
Yeah.
of something better." And as you do that more and more often, you eventually can catch them quicker, and you're like, "Ah," kinda, like, clear that
Yeah.
and think of something better. And then, you say to yourself every day, like, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I'm getting better. It's just work to reprogram that
Mhm.
subconscious mind because it's so programmed from like the news to what the things that we grew up hearing, whatever it was in our lives. And we still hear it daily. I can't even listen to the news.
I
Um,
don't I don't. I
Yeah.
can't yeah.
We're not
No.
designed to know every single horrible detail everywhere that's happening. Like our
Yeah.
nervous systems are just not designed that way. And so I really, every single day, make a really big effort to listen to like a Joe Dispenza meditation, maybe first thing in the morning. It's like 10 minutes. And as I'm just getting out of bed and waking up, like I'll wake up
Mhm.
to it. So
Yeah.
it's immediately setting the tone in my mind.
Yeah.
So
I
I think it's just daily, daily, daily.
It is. Like, I am not a perfect person by any means, but I am a very reflective person.
Mhm.
So I always at night, I mean, this is terrible because I should just be trying to quiet my mind and go to sleep, but I always lay there and just think about the day and process through things and try to think about how am I going to do tomorrow a little bit better. And that's all you can do is just be aware, just have that awareness. But like you're saying with the thoughts and recognizing them, I will tell you, when I went through severe depression, I had no idea the thoughts that I was having in my own head. Like, I really couldn't hear them until I read a book that really, oh God, what is it called? I actually gave it to somebody recently. Feeling Better, the New Mood Therapy, I think it's called, by David Burns. It's a really, really good book. I want to say he's the one that invented cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh, okay.
But as I read that book, it was like, whoa, like I slowly was, I don't know how the book did it, but like I slowly started hearing all my thoughts and it was like, whoa, like I am not nice to myself, like drop my fork and be like, you idiot. Like every little thing, I was just so hard on myself for every tiny little mistake that I would make within the day. And so then it's like, okay, how can I reframe that and not see it in that way? And just really starting to see your whole entire life and everything in a different light. It takes a lot of time. This is not an overnight process by any means.
No. And I think that's the thing that people are, because at one point I did nutrition coaching when I first got out of school, and I really struggled with it because people want instant results. They don't really want to do much work. It's like, oh, I did this meal plan for 3 weeks. I don't feel anything. I'm like, you would need to do this for like 6 months to a year to feel anything.
Well, yeah, you want yourselves to like regenerate and all that too. Yeah, I know. There's such a instant gratification
It doesn't
thing
work that
happening.
way. We don't have patience. We don't want to go through the work. And like I said, I've been doing this for years. And then eventually you start to feel the cumulative like
Mhm.
effort turn into something,
Yeah.
where you can catch yourself faster. You can change your energy quicker. You feel better. You're just happier.
Yeah.
I think that's a different thing. It's like you said, like some self-love, not
Mhm.
being so mean to yourself, which I still am working on because I do struggle with that as well.
Yeah.
Like, why you're so dumb? What are you doing? Or like, just we're all we're all the same. We all are like
Yeah.
that for some reason. And just give yourself grace too, the same you would give to your child.
Yeah. Yeah, your story is really interesting because you just said child, and that reminded me of the beginning when you started talking about what kind of changed things. And yeah, motherhood changes everything. It really does. I feel like it's such a big eye opener for a lot of people. And you have to care about yourself more than you ever did because there's now this tiny human that reliant on you and your well-being. But also to touch on what you were just saying a few minutes ago, just that you do have to give yourself time and look back a year ago or 6 months or whatever, and then that way you can really see the small gains. Because sometimes I think in the here and now, when things aren't good, like, because
Mhm.
I have my days where maybe my health isn't so great, and I'm like, "Oh my," but I almost catch myself noticing that it's like a little bit of PTSD back from when I was so, so sick. I had Lyme disease and other things, and back from when I was, like, really, really sick and was probably about to die. I mean, I really 100% believe that. Whether anybody else on this planet does, I believe. I mean, I got to the point at Stanford, the doctor did ask me, she's like, "So, have you heard of ALS?" Because she had sent me for like all these different tests. And by the end of it, she actually said, "Come back in 3 weeks. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to try to figure out what's wrong with you." And then that's what she came up with. I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I really do think had I given up on myself, my body was definitely shutting down. I mean, my wedding, like, as beautiful as I think I looked that day, I was probably the sickest day of my life. Like, I was force eating, which sounds weird, but I was force eating for many weeks before that, trying to not look anorexic and ill. But I was sick to my stomach for whatever reason. It was just like all the things going on in my body did not want me to eat. It was weird. So every time I'd eat, I'd be like gagging, but I was force eating. 'Cause I'm like, I can't, you have to eat to survive. And I knew
Yeah.
that, but I was just forcing myself into survival and slowly had to figure things out just so that I could survive. But then having children changed everything, which I didn't have on my own. I did through surrogacy, but they are mine. And the
Yeah. So
one
stick.
very much looks like me.
Yeah.
The other one acts like me. She's wild like me. Um,
Right. That's
but
great.
yeah, we go through these things that really give us a whole new perspective. And Yeah, like I was saying, though, the PTSD, I think, sets in sometimes when it's just the flu, and I'm like, I go back to those days where I felt like I was about to die, and I'm like, just remember last week you were doing really, really good, like I
All
have to.
just fear-based. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just fear coming back out and trying to get
Mhm.
a hold. And that's something that, it's hard also to like acknowledge that. Say, okay, wait, this is not, I cannot, you don't need to go back down that path. You could just say, no, it's fine. And
Yeah.
again, everything you say to yourself just continues to take you onto that next wavelength in a sense. So you can either go on a wavelength back down or a wavelength back up.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's how I think of it. Like every choice I make or every decision, every thought will bring me either on the next wave up or the next wave down.
Yeah.
It's almost that simple. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And, even after I had kids, I had already had my daughter and so I had my son and then I nursed him for about a year. I had 4-month break and I was pregnant again. And so then had my daughter and I nursed her for 18 months. And by that point, like in addition to also having the Crohn's diagnosis at that time, I was just like a mess. I had postpartum depression. I couldn't function. I mean, I was really not well. And I was very lucky to have found a naturopath that was able to help me. And after doing some blood work, she was like, "Oh my God, you're so depleted."
Mm.
Because you're like staring at walls and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to all the moms that are out there that feel that way, and there's so many of them, you hear they get divorced, God forbid, like worse, just so sick, their lives fall
Yeah.
apart. She was basically like, let's just do a couple like vitamin infusions, gave me like some really good supplements. Within 3 weeks, I was like a different person.
Mm.
It was like the lights just went back on.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, I'm like, it could be so simple,
Yeah.
just not getting the right stuff done. And then the last issue that I was still kind of struggling with was my immune system,
Mhm.
because that was completely destroyed from all of the immune suppressing medications I was
Yeah.
taking. I had like weird, besides constantly being sick, and now the kids were starting to go to preschool, so they were always coming home
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
I was starting to get hair follicle, like all kinds of weird stuff, like folliculitis, they would call it. So
Yeah. Mhm.
I was always like at infectious disease doctors. I had, I don't know, weird infection in my belly button, like in my like
Oh my gosh.
skin. It was just my immune system was
Yeah.
just overreacting to everything.
Mhm.
And that's how I found elderberries.
Okay.
I was just like, okay, I got to find something because I couldn't do the flu shot either because I would react to that and get like a really bad flu.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's when I started doing research about the flu shot. And I was like, I'm not doing that because like
Yeah.
not good
Yeah.
for my body. And so I was like, there's got to be something out there that specifically will help me rebuild my immune system. And all of my research led me to elderberry. And I was like, okay, I'll look at that. And I live in Missouri. So we have Missouri University here,
Mhm.
and they have been studying elderberries for 40 years.
Okay.
They were like the leading elderberry university. And so I was able to find local elderberries. There's a couple of farmers growing elderberries in my area. So I found fresh elderberries. I got some local honey and just started making my own elderberry syrup.
Uh-huh.
And that's how the whole thing just came to be out of nowhere.
And then you started seeing, I'm guessing, like, a lot of changes maybe for your
Oh,
kids, for
yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Totally. Like, not only were we getting way less sick, but we were getting as sick, So, like, if
Yeah.
someone did get sick, it just wasn't as bad. And then in time, like, at this point right now, it's been a couple years for me. So I've completely reset my system. Like,
Mhm.
I don't get sick, and I travel. I mean, I can literally just go off an airplane.
Do you feel like it's helped with your intestinal things as well?
So I have a theory.
Okay. Other question, though.
Yeah.
In your elderberry syrup, do you have gummies or just syrup?
Both. We have
Oh.
gummies and syrup.
Do you put cinnamon in there? Because I know cinnamon also has a lot of natural healing properties that I think are very underrated.
Yeah, cinnamon's also really important for my product because I don't use preservatives.
Mhm.
So cinnamon actually does act as a preservative. It's so
Okay.
antibacterial that
Okay.
it helps with preservation. It's also really good for blood sugar too.
Yeah. Okay.
It's great for a lot of things, but you have to use the right cinnamon. So we use organic Ceylon cinnamon, which is
Okay.
good for true cinnamon.
Yeah.
The cinnamon that people most commonly use is called cassia. It's not a true,
Yeah.
it's more toxic.
Yeah. It's not real, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's some differences. Yeah, and we use fresh pressed elderberry juice.
Okay.
So here's my theory, and this is just a theory, so nobody say
Mhm.
Amelia said this is what it cures. But
Yeah.
elderberry is actually a laxative and a diuretic
Okay.
as well. So people come and like, oh, I have Crohn's, I'm just gonna take all the elderberry, and I was like, no, 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 don't do that because if you're having a flare up, you don't
Yeah.
need something that's a laxative.
Right.
But what I think for me, what it did, like 1 tablespoon is not going to do that a day, like a
Yeah.
normal dose. But for me, what I think it is that it's so antiviral.
Hmm.
There was a lot of studies that just came out. I went to the International Symposium. It was here in Missouri. So there was people, universities from all over the world came to present research they were doing. So one of the universities was presenting on viruses because we know elderberry is antiviral. That's been studied really well, specifically for flu. So they were saying what the mechanism is that elderberry actually destroys like the scissor mechanism that gets into the cell because the virus has to get into a cell to upload into the DNA and replicate. It
Okay.
needs the host. The virus is not gonna just replicate in the body without being able to go into the
Right.
cell. So the elderberry destroys the virus's ability to get into that cell and replicate.
Oh, wow.
That's why they say take it at early onset or preventative.
Mhm.
Because once the virus is already, kind of
Yeah.
spread everywhere, it's much harder to put a cap on it. So then she also mentioned that they not only looked at flu, but they looked at HIV.
Wow.
And that the HIV virus also responded the same way to elderberry, like really well to so lowered the load of the virus because the virus can't replicate. And so I asked that I was like right away, what about mono? You know, that's
Epstein-Barr. Yeah.
Epstein-Barr, EBV is such a problem for so many people.
Mhm.
And she said, well, we didn't specifically study that one. And I was like, oh, come on, you got to do that one. But why not? You know what?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's a virus. And if we're destroying the virus's ability to replicate in the body, for me, that was my problem. Mine was
Mhm.
Epstein-Barr virus.
Yeah.
So that's my theory is that for me, I think the elderberry helps in that way where it's keeping my viral load down.
Hmm.
And that's a big trigger for me.
Okay. Yeah. I think a lot of people are very unaware that they have EBV. I mean, I do. I think the majority of people do. And I think if you're not keeping that in check, then when you get sick with other things, like your immune system's already a little bit weakened from it. I think your body gets a little bit used to things being there, but then you get some cold, flu, whatever on top of it, then everything just gets stirred back up. So,
Stress. I think stress is absolutely the worst because if you think about stress, it's like your fight or flight.
mhm,
And then when your body's in that state, all of the other processes can't happen.
right.
So everything, viruses will take advantage of that. Like it's a weak system in general, and the viruses will take advantage of that opportunity.
For sure. Have you done any tests on your actual elderberry?
For the virus,
Like scientific studies or anything like given to a group of nothing like
no,
that?
but there are studies available on PubMed. You can go on
Okay.
PubMed.com and there's research studies where they've like divided groups into travelers
Mhm.
to see if they get sick more often or not. And typically the elderberry group gets sick less often and it's less severe.
Yeah.
And then some of the other studies that were presented at the conference was Missouri University. They had a $5 million grant, which is huge for an elderberry. Like
Yeah.
nobody gives that kind of money to study berry. So it was a really big deal.
It just sound funny. You want to study berries for 5 million?
Yeah, it was cool. I'm gonna be like, no, like you can't patent it, you can't turn it into a drug.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with that. But they did do a huge study for brain health because they already discovered that elderberry can cross the blood-brain barrier.
Okay.
So they were like, okay, well, now what? Now that it gets in there, can it help with Alzheimer's, dementia? It's such a big problem nowadays. Brain tumors, cancer, all the things.
Mhm.
So they did a study with mice. It was the first study that they did. And they also tested it against DHEA because they know that is also great for the brain. And what they found, so yes, elderberry does cross the blood-brain barrier and it helps lower inflammation in the brain.
Yeah.
So they got enough data because so the mice in the study were less anxious. They were more involved in the community. They were able to solve puzzles faster. And they did
Mice
find,
are so funny.
I know, it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
So yeah, and then the mice had less inflammation in the actual brain. So what they were saying is that yes, there needs to be obviously human studies done, like more studies done, but it was like enough research and
Yeah.
enough information to say yes, now we should move forward with that. As well as they also looked at the dosages. So
That's
it
what I was
doesn't
gonna
take.
say. Was the dosage just regular or
So they just use pure juice, basically from the same farms as I source from because I'm
okay.
in that same area
Right.
as
Okay.
they are. So we have the same juice that we use, and they only did 3 doses a day at a teaspoon each
Okay.
of just the straight juice.
So, do you know, because I don't know this, when it comes to mice versus humans, like, is that equivalent? So if they were taking 3 teaspoons a day as a mouse, like as a human, should you be taking 3 teaspoons a day as well to compare to the study?
That's a very good question. I'm not 100% sure, honestly. Yeah, they told us their dosing. I'm trying to remember if they said it was equivalent to, because we did ask how much elderberry should we tell our customers to take, and they told us to tell them to take equivalent of 3 teaspoons a day. So
Okay.
for my product, the elixir, that would be about a tablespoon and a half
Mhm.
for, so almost the same thing for that therapeutic dose.
Yeah.
So
I
that'd be
mean,
like,
I am not a scientist or a doctor or probably even
I
smart
know.
enough for all that, but I would imagine that mice, because they're so tiny and so fast, that they have a faster metabolism. So
Mhm.
if you slow that rate down, then like one mouse maybe is comparable to a human, like the metabolisms are comparable. I would maybe want to
Because they do
try
choose
some.
mice to do these studies on. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like there's gotta be
There's
at
a
least
reason.
you
Yeah.
know, there's a reason why they choose mice.
Now I have to look into this. I'm just really curious. Yeah, why mice and yeah, how much do they
100%.
compare to a human?
But they have done human studies on other things like the viral loads, We're
Okay.
just not getting into the brain stuff yet.
Yeah.
They are doing lots of great studies on elderberry in brain cancer units as well, since it is one of the things that can cross that blood-brain barrier, and they know it can help break down cancer cells. They're really trying to figure out what are all the dosages, how can we do this? Because it's so high in antioxidants,
Okay.
and it is so anti-inflammatory. So everybody always thinks about elderberry for cold and flu, like, "Oh, soon as
Yeah.
I flu, I'm gonna take elderberry." But actually, you need to prime the system, like, you need to take it for prevention, and it's great for inflammation, brain health, now we know, all the things.
So you say 3 teaspoons a day for adults and children, or
No, I would say children would be less. So we like, our
yeah.
dosages, we say a teaspoon a day for a kid,
Okay.
but, if you have a 12-year-old that's my size,
Yeah.
you have to kind of figure that out, like,
Right, right, right.
a 2-year-old and a 12-year-old is, so you just kinda dose a little bit up. But a full-grown adult, our dosing is usually about a tablespoon a day,
Okay.
just if you're not sick, if you're not trying to treat anything,
Mhm.
or if you're just doing it for daily health, daily immune support, daily inflammation, a tablespoon is probably pretty good. If
Okay.
you want, like, really, if you really have issues, like if you have RA, we have a lot of people with RA that tell us that
Mhm.
it's great for them, chronic sinus infections.
Okay.
We've had a lot of stories of chronic sinus infections going away.
Mhm.
So, like, they'd say, "Oh my god, I've been taking your product for a year, and this year I did not get any infections for the first time
What do you
ever."
think is the timeline for most people when they start taking it to have improvement in whatever symptoms it be? I would think the arthritis is a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Is it
so if you're
3 months?
taking it acutely, where it's like, "Okay, I wake up and I know I'm getting sick," it's pretty quick. Like, we just tell people, if you wake up, you're not feeling well, take it every 2 to 3 hours to bowel tolerance because of
Mhm.
the laxative and diuretic properties.
Yeah, my daughter got sick recently, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get her some elderberry." So,
Yeah,
yeah, and I definitely think it didn't get too out of control, and then I felt a little funky, but I started taking it, and I did fine, and I never got full-blown sick, but, I mean,
mhm,
I also do shots of vitamin C and zinc and stuff, so
yeah.
that's a whole whole 'nother thing. But, yeah, I can see the benefits of it usually pretty quickly
Pretty
in
quickly
our
if you're, like, doing it for cold and flu stuff, and
Mhm.
if you catch it at onset and do it very frequently for just a short amount of time, it will knock it right out pretty quick. And then you don't get that secondary infection, so you're gonna hopefully not get onto an antibiotic, which is the
Mhm.
goal, right? We don't wanna get
Yeah.
to that point. But if you're doing it more for chronic issues, we tell people at least 3 to 6 months. And that's what the studies show too. Like, the studies they all did showed that by that 6-month point, the benefit, like, really spiked.
Mhm.
So that's when you really start to see, because if, like we said earlier, like, we're talking about getting down to the cellular level and working through the problems in the cells, that's not gonna happen in a day.
No.
Cells have to regenerate, the body has to do work, the body has
Yeah.
to lower the inflammation. It's changing the terrain.
And it does take 3 months for the body to regenerate the
Yeah.
blood cells, so it makes sense. When you said something about bowel tolerance, it reminded me of I was gonna mention, it's like thinking this would probably be good for, constipation. Not that I'm a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, but I will say that personally, in our household, if somebody is struggling, children or whoever, we just do the high dose vitamin C. It's safe.
Mhm.
But we don't really even have to do a super high dose. Usually the kids are pretty sensitive to it and it helps them,
Yeah.
but I can imagine just a little extra
This is the
elderberry
same.
and you're gonna yeah.
I've had so many people be like, "Oh, I got off my Metamucil." Like, okay, no, you shouldn't take that anyway.
Yeah.
But good thing, just taking it daily, it adds little by little, it changes the structure. So, yes, you can take it acutely, you can just take a couple extra doses if you need it, like, to work right away, but if
Yeah.
it's, like, a chronic problem for you, and you're doing it daily, it will help alleviate the chronic problem.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Well, this has been very insightful. I'm actually like, wow, I love all the scientific studies. I feel like that's what really sells people too on using a product is understanding that it's been proven in some way, shape, or form, not just, I mean, I love testimonials. And I will say personally, for my own health, I really think the reason I am where I am today is just from conversations with people and hearing their stories about things that they've done and that were successful for them. And I tried them. But also reading studies is very helpful, and I've done that too with other things, like, does this make sense to do? How beneficial is this usually for people? And so I think it's really helpful for people to hear that there have been actual studies done on the
Yeah, right.
elderberry,
Mhm.
and I love that
Yeah.
you're sourcing
Mhm.
from the same place. That's really cool that you're sourcing from the same place that did the study.
Yeah, that one particular study, yeah.
That study, yes, that one
Mhm.
study, yeah. Can you say, before we finish,
Sure.
is there something you would say or share about the ingredients? Because I know myself, when you're shopping for something, there's a lot of different options for elderberry. There's a lot of different options for every supplement on the market, right? Like, why use yours, Amelia? I mean, I feel sold on it, but what else can you say about that? I think sharing the things that you studied, I studied this, and this, and found like these were key. What can you share with us that makes your product stand out more than the others?
Absolutely, yeah, thanks for asking that, actually. So, one of the things that I did learn at that same like, international symposium, there was a regulatory group there that's not the FDA, they're like a nonprofit, and they showed us that they pulled 150 elderberry samples off of Amazon, and 38% of them were not actually elderberry.
Oh my gosh.
Not even elderberry. So that's number one. Like, we use first press elderberry juice. So the berries come off the farms or organically grown berries, not organically certified berries, because a lot of the farmers, they're just not going to go through the paperwork, the process.
Yes.
It can take years and so much money for them. It's just not worth it for them. Some of them only have 3, 4 acres of elderberries. And so but they do use organic practices.
Okay.
And then so we get the first press juice. We add ginger, organic fresh whole ginger,
Okay.
cinnamon, organic Ceylon cinnamon, clove, also organic clove. So those 3 spices, in addition to the elderberry, are listed very highly on the ORAC scale, which is
Okay.
scale for like antioxidants.
Mhm.
Clove is antibacterial, antiparasitic. Ginger is anti-inflammatory. Cinnamon, like we said earlier, is also very antibacterial. So all of these spices have their own benefit on top of the elderberry.
Mhm.
And then our only sweetener is just a little bit of local honey that I source here as well. So there's lots of
Okay.
beekeepers here, and I've been able to find enough local honey here. So right now we're just small batch. We're not in giant vats. So everything is really clean, really local,
Mhm.
low carbon footprint. We're bottling here. So it's not going from China. Most of the berries are coming from China. A lot of the elderberry, even though they're saying it's organic or they're calling it local because they use local honey, the
Mhm.
actual dried berries are coming from China that they're using.
Okay.
So that's one big differentiator is that we're actually working with really local farmers, and we're really trying to help build up the American farming industry in the elderberry space.
I love that. I'm happy for people to be able to create products within their own countries to support their own countries. I think that's really nice. And it's always nice to support a farmer, right? They work so hard. And
They work
I
so
also,
hard.
yeah, I love how you shared too that they're organic, but not organic. And there's things like that where I buy and I'm like, is it or is it not? But yeah, we go to the farmer's market and nothing is actually organic and certified, but they will tell you, like, we don't use pesticides or whatever. So I think it's important to know that, like, things don't have to be labeled organic to still be organic.
And the opposite could be true. I mean, I heard lots of stories. My dad even did some international buying and selling. And when you're buying from other countries, they don't have the same regulations as us. So they'll throw a stamp on something just for some money. You know
For
what
the
I
right
mean?
price. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
want
that's
it
the
to be
honest
organic?
truth.
Yeah.
You want it to be organic? Here's an organic stamp. Give me some money.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share about your product?
No, I'd love people to try it. I mean, really the mission is to bring the plant back into people's lives. This plant has been around for thousands of years. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said elders the medicine chest. So we have jellies and teas. We have our certified organic teas that are also bagged in Missouri, so they are organic. We know that, for sure. And we just have some great products that are great for gifts. Like you can give them as get well gifts, or even just really nice like tea,
A
jelly.
stay well gift.
Yeah, stay well, exactly. It's a stay well gift. And even just for the holidays, like everyone brings wine somewhere. Bring some tea and some jelly.
Yeah.
Just a nice option for those things.
I think that's a great gift. I actually hadn't thought about gifting that. Like, when you go to somebody's house for a holiday party or something like that, you
Mhm.
always bring treats and sugar and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about bringing a bottle of elderberry syrup
Yes.
and your cookies if you have to? But yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for sharing your product and your story with everyone.
Yeah, thank you for having me and letting me share. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.